What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Just out here doing a walk. Today I want to talk about a recent podcast, a recent Fresh and Fit podcast, where they had a guest on, Nick Fuentes, I think it is. Gonna get into that, but I watched the podcast and I saw him drop the N-word in a room full of black people, and those black people start laughing and joking and egg him on to say it. And I want to get into that and some other things that were said on that podcast episode. Before I get into it, I just want to say thank you guys for all the support. The channel is growing. A lot of people are starting to watch the content, so thank you for all that support. Hit that like button, comment, let me know what you think of the video. All right, let's get into it. So, Fresh and Fit. Fresh and Fit, who are they? What do they do? Fresh and Fit is a podcast where essentially they have women come on, they have other types of guests come on, and they talk about a range of issues from relationships between men and women. They talk about the trans community, they talk about business, they talk about a lot, okay? And they have a variety of guests on from different sides of the aisle, and I think it would be a fair assessment to say that much of their content is deemed controversial. I think they've been under criticism pretty much since the channel was started picking up and gaining more followers, and yeah, that's the best synopsis I can give of that. Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him. This was kind of my first time even hearing him, and I'll get into it. Okay, so first of all, let's tackle the N-word being said by a white man in a room full of black people, and said black people laughing. Okay, let's tackle that. So I gotta be honest, okay? As a black person, when I see white people saying the N-word, there's a different feeling behind it than when I hear black people saying it. Now, why? I know there's a lot of logical people, myself included, that say, well, what is the difference between white people saying the N-word and black people saying the N-word? Here's the difference, okay? Especially on this podcast, I'll speak of it from this perspective. On this podcast, I have seen these men, Fresh and Fit, argue that it's different when a man cheats versus a woman cheating. I've heard them say that. You can go through their podcast. They say, well, it's different if a man cheats on a woman compared to if a woman cheats on a man, because women cheat for different reasons than men cheat. Women cheat because they're emotionally attached to the other man and they love him pretty much, and men cheat just because they want to pretty much get their dick wet, and that's just what men do, pretty much, right? They're exercising their options. Well, it's hard for me to understand how they can hold that position but not understand how it's different when white people say the N-word and black people. Because if you're of the opinion that it's different when men and women cheat because men and women are different, then surely you would understand the argument that it's different when white people say the N-word versus black people, because white people are different than black people in terms of culture, in terms of history, in terms of the power dynamics between the groups of people. And by the way, this is not a clip where I'm advocating for Fresh and Fit to be banned, canceled, taken off of YouTube, or for anyone to stop watching them. This is me giving my perspective and my critique on a certain phenomena that exists when it comes to black people. And I'm going to be the first one to say that 90% of it is on black people's shoulders. We have to take accountability for 90% of it, right? And when I say accountability, what I'm saying is, within our heart of hearts, we're not doing the best that we can do to represent our culture in a positive light to where people understand not to respect it, or people understand to respect it. Everything in our culture is for sale, right? What is sacred in black culture? Nothing. Black women aren't sacred. Black men aren't sacred. Black children sure aren't sacred. Our music isn't sacred. Our traditions aren't sacred. Our education isn't sacred. There's nothing in the black community that's sacred, okay? And when you don't have anything that's sacred, it's easy for other groups of people to come in and tear you down, say things, because we haven't been consistent enough in showing that we're not willing to deal with this. We put music out where we degrade our women, and we get up on stage and clap, and we say, you know, that, like, I don't know what any other group of women's asses look like more than black women, because just based off of the media. I don't see white women getting on stage and doing the types of, and sexualizing themselves as much as black women. I don't see Asian women doing it. I don't see Hispanic women doing it. It's our women. I don't see other groups of men talking about killing other groups of men within their community as much as our community. And this is not me saying this to justify Nick Fuentes' dumbass saying the N-word on the Fresh and Fit podcast while a room full of black people, including Fresh and Fit, laugh about it. What this is saying is, this is a symptom of a larger disease that we have within the black community, where we don't respect ourselves so other people don't respect us. Right? Have you ever been in a room where it's obvious these people are top tier, no BS, not gonna deal with the disrespect, versus a room where people showing up late, people not handling their business, they inconsistent, they don't garner respect. Here's the thing. In black culture, respect has been equated to materialism, or to, how do I say this? In the black community, respect is typically related to things that don't necessarily translate in a civilized or respectful climate. What I mean by that is this. When I was growing up, and this is something that I even had to deal with myself. When I was growing up in my community, if someone disrespected you, that you didn't talk about it. You didn't give your perspective. You didn't say, oh, well, I think this, what do you think? And have a conversation about it. You fought them, okay? And the way you gained respect in my community was showing you won't be disrespected. And the way you showed that you weren't disrespected was by getting violent. Well, that's all fine and cool if you're in an environment where that's acceptable. But in the real world, when you step out and you try to go get a job, or you're in class and you disagree with somebody, you can't just stand up and fight them. You're gonna go to jail. You're gonna get kicked out of college. You're gonna lose your job, right? So that's the issue, is when we're growing up as black people, many of us are taught to deal with disrespect in a way that is dysfunctional in broader society, okay? Now, where I'm going with this is, what ends up happening is this. When we are constantly disrespecting ourselves, we don't know how to properly respect ourselves without getting violent. And when you try to outgrow that violent stage, you want to start getting a job and getting your life together, you can no longer act like that. So we as a community, we don't know how to exude a sense of respect without getting violent. And so our respect, the way we think of respect, I think we're not at the phase yet where we understand the other ways that we show respect. We show respect by not cheerleading our black women getting on stage and shaking their ass and getting BBLs. We show respect in other ways. It doesn't have to be violent. And if this was the Muslim community that was on the Fresh and Fit podcast, they wouldn't have allowed it. And here's the crazy thing, okay? Typically, you cater to your audience. I think a large part of the Fresh and Fit podcast audience are black. So that begs the question. Your audience, a lot of them are black. You have black famous people come up there, celebrities, you know, we push it in the culture, all this stuff. You feel bold enough that you can disrespect black people and still get their support. I wonder why they would think that. I wonder why people would think they can disrespect the black community and still get our support. I'll tell you why. Because a major political party, I don't know their name, you know, maybe it starts with a D, I don't know. You know, maybe it rhymes with Democrat. Maybe it rhymes with Democrat, I don't know. A major political party, I mean, there's only 2 of them in the United States, but I don't know what their name is. But they, for decades, have disrespected the black community. And what have we done? Supported them. We show up to their doorstep every 4 years. Oh yeah, we show up to their doorstep early. We the first ones in line. And they disrespect us. But we show up. What type of message does that send to people? And so I don't fault Fresh and Fit. They're just cashing in on an age-old idea that it is totally normal and acceptable to disrespect black people because we don't respect ourselves. And if we don't respect ourselves, how can we ask other people to? We don't know how to garner respect as a group. And I'm not talking about individual black people, right? Because many black people that I know, when I show them that type of content, they say, first thing they say is, oh, if I was there, I would have beat his ass. But that's not realistic. That's not realistic, especially for somebody like me. I've worked so hard to get to where I'm at. I'm not gonna get in a fight on camera and throw away everything I worked for because somebody called me the N-word. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna talk a little bit about if you're black and you hear someone saying the N-word that's white or a different group where you feel offended, stop. Because it's not worth throwing your life away. I had a homie in college and he told me his uncle is in prison right now because someone called him the N-word and he ended up beating him to death, right? It's not worth it. Here's why it's not worth it. Because that word does not have the power that it once had. Is it disrespectful? Yes. Do we know what the intentions behind it are when people are saying it? Maybe, maybe not. But at the end of the day, here's this. Your life is more valuable than throwing it away over a word, right? Because it's so easy for us to get in our emotions and want to feel like we have to defend our ancestors and defend the black community and have this story of someone said the N-word and I didn't allow it and I stood on my toes and I didn't back down and I beat their ass. Look, it makes for a cool story, but your life is more important than a cool story. So here's what I suggest, okay? If you're called the N-word or you hear someone saying the N-word, remain as calm as possible. Remain as calm as possible and understand that this word is just a word at the end of the day. And 2, question. If you can be calm enough, question. Hey, oh, N-word? Oh, are you racist? Have a conversation, right? Have a conversation or walk away. Because here's the thing. We all know when someone's trying to instigate. We all know when someone's doing something to get attention, okay? We all know this. And right now, there has been a quantum leap of people doing things to get attention, because right now it's easier than ever to get attention by doing things that are taboo, by saying things that are taboo, right? And what's taboo? Saying the N-word, okay? You say the N-word, you're white, you get a bunch of attention, and you can make an argument of, well, black people say it, I should be able to say it, freedom of speech. And I'm all for freedom of speech, which is why I'm not advocating for a ban or a cancellation, right? Freedom of speech also means you can critique people. So what I am saying is this. We're in an age now where we have to understand that people are doing things that are taboo to get attention. And the more attention it gets, the more people are gonna wanna do it, right? Even this video now that I'm doing, it's going to get attention, and it's going to put attention on them. I don't see anything wrong with that. Here's what I'll say. From a black culture perspective, we have to do better. There's no reason why people should feel as comfortable as they do disrespecting black people, because one, we influence so much of what happens in America from a cultural perspective. Things aren't considered cool without our stamp of approval. Even in elections, when we show up and we organize, we show that we can swing the scale of an election. When we put our minds together, we can make great leaps in science. We can make great discoveries. We can make great inventions. We are capable as a people of so much more. But we have to get this culture thing right. We have to get this culture thing right. Because if people are willing to disrespect us online, what do you think they're doing behind closed doors? Right? If we're not taken seriously. When we step into tech spaces, we're not taken seriously. When we step into STEM courses, we're not taken seriously, because nobody wants to take us seriously, because we don't take ourselves seriously. There's no consequences for not taking us seriously. It's logical. You're not going to put as much weight on people who don't respect themselves. That's just what it is. Who do you want to, if we're being real, who do you want to get into an argument with? I don't even want to say an argument. When we talk about bullies, right? Bullies don't want to fight the person that's going to fight back. They want an easy fight. And black people right now are an easy fight because our culture is dysfunctional. We don't have a collective mindset when it comes to strategic organization around issues that we want to change on a community level. We're back and forth. We disrespect our community openly more than other groups of people. Maybe they're doing it behind closed doors to a lesser degree or to a higher degree, but openly, no one disrespects the black community and black people more than other black people. Nobody. And so until we get that under control, it's always going to leave a door open for people to slide in and disrespect us. And what are they going to say when they do it? Y'all don't even respect yourselves. You don't even respect yourselves. Right? Like I've heard black men tell black women, yeah, you know, you got sexually assaulted. Look at what you were wearing. I've heard people say that before to women. Look at what you were wearing though. You didn't respect yourself. You were leaving the door open for this to happen. You were pretty much asking for it. This is the type of stuff I hear. But what are we doing as black people when we leave the door open for disrespect? When we turn on the TV and we have our 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old girls talking about they pussy and they ass and shaking it and acting like they're grown women, right? What are we leaving the door open to? We're leaving the door open for our women to be disrespected. What are we doing when our young men turn on the TV and they're hearing that it's acceptable to shoot other black people, and that's what really makes you a man, and that's how you gain acceptance and credibility within the black community, is murdering other black people, harming other black people? What are we teaching them? Foolishness. So on one hand, we're teaching black girls that the only thing they're worth is not being a wife, not being someone's mother one day, but shake your ass, show your vagina, and everything will work out in life for you. That's what we're teaching women. And what we're teaching men is it's acceptable to disrespect other black men, black women, and that the only way you're going to gain any acceptance in our community is by being a thug, a killer, or somebody who talks about those things, right? And I'll go a step further, because earlier I was asking, what do we hold sacred in the black community? I got it. We hold sacred some of the stupidest shit that I have ever heard in my life. We hold sacred snitches get put in ditches. Don't snitch. That's what we hold sacred. We hold sacred. Somebody steps on our J's, we gotta fight them. That's what we hold sacred. What do we hold sacred? We hold sacred the Democrat Party. Let's keep it a buck. That we hold them sacred. That's probably our most sacred rule. Vote for Democrats. That's what we hold sacred. So, yeah. So that's what we hold sacred. So when I hear the complaints when other groups of people do stuff to us, on one hand, I feel it because I'm a black man and I don't like the disrespect. My initial reaction is anger. My initial reaction is I want to poke back. But my logical answer is, look, man, I see where it's coming from. I see where it's coming from, right? Like, I imagine myself as a fighter that's getting punched. I get punched in my face, boom, it hurts. My first reaction is to swing back. But if I step back and analyze the situation, now I can see where the punches are coming from. But I'm just getting hit. And the reason I'm getting hit is because I've opened myself up to being hit. My defense is crap, right? My footwork is boo-boo. You know, like I allow someone to come in and hit me because I haven't done what I need to do to prepare myself for this fight. And black people as a group, we have not done what we've needed to do to prepare ourselves to compete against other groups of people for resources, respect, and status in America. We haven't, okay? Last point I want to touch on is during the interview with Nick Fuentes, he had brought up the IQ test, and he was talking about how different races of people score on average differently on the IQ test, and that black people are on average are at the bottom. That black people on average have the lowest IQ test. Okay, a couple things about this. When it comes to the IQ test, we have to understand a few things. The IQ test was never designed to be used in the way that it's being used. As a matter of fact, the person that the IQ test was, and I forget where it was, I think it might have been in Britain, it was definitely another country. It was being used in another country, and there was a psychologist or there was someone that had went to another country, saw it being used or whatever, brought it back to the United States and adapted it to the United States. But it was never supposed to be used for measuring people and categorizing people in the way that it has been. And the person that did that and adapted it to America fought for it to not be used in that way. And they were disgusted by the way that it ended up being used as a tool to categorize different people, especially when they started using it, eugenicists, you started using it to categorize black people as less intelligent, right? This is where the eugenics argument comes in, where people say black people are genetically criminals, that we're born to be criminals, which is absolutely ridiculous. This is not backed up by science. Black people are not born criminals. Nobody is born a criminal. But my pushback to what seemed like Nick Fuentes using the IQ test to say, he said, well, the IQ test shows that we need to meet people where they're at. Okay, here's a couple things. One, again, the IQ test was never designed to be used the way that it's being used. Two, the IQ test is biased. It is culturally biased. There are questions on the IQ test that have to do with snow, I believe. Well, if you've grown up in a region where there's no snow, you may not know. You may not. There are certain things. Like I think there was, in one iteration, there was something about the Yankees. You know, like you may not know about that. So it's like we have to question the cultural biases that are used in these tests, the language as well. If you don't understand the language, like if you give me an IQ test in Spanish, I may not do well on that IQ test, right? If I don't understand the language. So there are a multitude of things that could get in the way of someone scoring higher than another people, especially when that test was made by the majority group and has been controlled by the majority group. So that's my thoughts on the IQ test. I wouldn't get too hung up in that. And also the IQ test does not test your raw brain power. It does not test how smart an individual is. It tests one component, which is really your reasoning and your spatial and your memory, right? But there are other parts of your IQ, like your emotional, your ability to comprehend. It's not the full picture, right? It's not the full picture. So, yeah, I would just say, and to end on this, black people are not inferior to white people. White people are not superior to black people. If you are white and you want to use the N-word, ask yourself why. Why do you want to use it so bad? And if you are black and you want to understand why we are disrespected as a community, ask yourself, what can you do personally to not perpetuate some of the things that allow other groups of people to come in and disrespect us without consequence? Hope y'all enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think. As always, comment. I'm open to hearing different perspectives. And if we get enough views and likes, maybe I'll do a longer session on this where I pull out the research and, do a little more formal. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Peace.